Well, hey, everybody. Welcome back to Buddies on Buddies, the show with two real life buddies talking about buddy action comedy movies. I'm Kenny Lane,
I'm Lucas Hill.
and this is the Buddies on Buddy show. All right.
Is it a
How you
show?
doing? It's a show. It's a TV show.
Okay. I didn't know a
Yeah.
TV show. Yeah.
Yeah. It's on the TV.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah. I put it at the pro shop, and I'm working at the golf course. And when people walk in, they're like, "What's that?" It's like, "That's my TV show." And the old timers are like, you Kenny have a TV show?" And I'm like, "Fucking A, yeah, I do." So yeah.
And they're like really surprised by all the magic and everything.
Yeah, they're like, "How'd you do this?" It's like, well, I'm kind of a big deal. I have a lot of, pull with big producers in LA. So yeah.
You guys know I'm from LA, right?
Yeah.
Well, I guess you
Right.
can take the guy out of LA, but you can't take the LA out of the guy. They're still hounding me to do TV.
Yeah. It's like, Kenny, every time I think I'm out, they fucking pull me back in.
Welcome back.
Welcome back. It's been a while. How was your month?
Good. Yeah.
Good?
Yeah, nothing to really talk about. Nothing that interesting going on.
Yeah. It's kind of a down month here up on the peninsula in Washington. Yeah, like January, February, weather's not good. So I didn't really travel or go to any events or anything. I've read a couple of books. I read Bob Odenkirk's new book and the new Quentin Tarantino one, Cinema Speculation.
And what did you think of
My books. I thought the Bob Odenkirk one was good. Made me laugh a couple times, but it's not as crazy as some of the comic books, autobiographies I've read in the past, like Artie Lang or Tom Arnold. His career's been crazy, Bob Odenkirk's. It's been going from a writer on Conan to starring in action movies, and I love Bob Odenkirk. But yeah, it's kind of your typical, like, I went to college, then I got on Second City, then I got a job at Conan, and it's all very just straightforward. It's fine. Tarantino's new book is good, but it is just like, I thought I was a fucking movie nerd encyclopedia guy, but Tarantino is something else. The way he can just rattle off such obscure stuff, and he even tries to help you out by like, she was in that movie, Pretty Little Maids All in a Row. Like, what are you talking about?
It's not even interesting to listen to him talk about movies because he talks about so many obscure movies in such rapid fashion that he might as well be speaking a different language. I don't.
Yeah, it's deep cut shit. I mean, and not many directors are really movie geeks. I mean, he even says, like, I think Robert Altman has seen maybe 10 movies in his life. like there's not, like, he just has a real love and knowledge of cinema. It's nuts.
It's funny you mentioned Robert Altman.
Yeah.
We just watched Married for the First Time, me since long ago. Speaking, I guess we'll get to that, but actually, it was a good transition, so we'll go ahead and stick with it now.
Sure.
We just watched McCabe and Mrs. Miller.
Oh yeah, what'd you think?
I remember liking it a lot, but I loved it this time. Mary was like,
yeah,
over the moon about it. The set design, the way it sticks with you, the mood. It's such a simple plot.
Yeah.
His ability to capture. I mean, it's what he does in all his movies, just naturalistic human behavior.
Yeah.
Crowds. I still get annoyed with the sound work, but I know he's going for that natural sound. But
people talking over each other.
Yeah, I don't know what he's saying. What does he say? But at least he's like one of the only ones that does it, so it's not that bad. But it's
that's his like signature, thing he does. Yeah. Well, I think that, and like I liked all his, like, in the 70s he was doing like kind of these like meditations on these genre movies, like the Western or like the LA detective movie with Long Goodbye. So yeah, I kind of dig McCabe and Mrs. Miller. I haven't seen it in a long time, but yeah, I think it's one of those that probably gets better every time you see it.
I'd imagine, because I remember vague stuff because I saw in my early 20s. I remember the snow cat and mouse thing, and like I didn't even remember the plot. No, there isn't much of a plot. I couldn't even remember. I was watching. I was like, I don't remember if he survives this or not, which is good.
Yeah.
So I got a lot more out of it, but loved it. And it was one of the few movies where Mary just like did not look at her phone the whole time. She was just
laser focused. Big win. Big win with the wife that look at the phone. Yeah. It's yeah, nice. Well, I saw a movie the other day. I went to the movies. I went to 80 for Brady.
Mm-hmm. What did you think of that?
Yeah. Well, I took my mom. She liked it, and that's all that really matters.
Did you like it more than you were thinking? Was it like the big piece of
No,
trash you thought it would be? No. Yeah.
it wasn't absolute garbage, and it was like it was okay. And but I, when my family or something wants to see, like I remember taking my nephews to see this John Cena movie called Playing with Fire a couple years ago,
Mhm.
and it was probably one of the dumbest fucking movies I've ever seen in my life. But my nephews loved it. So I'm not movie snobby enough not to like go with someone in my family or
Well, hold on, Kenny.
whatever
You're not
wants to work
movie
it. Yeah.
snobby at all. What are you
No,
talking?
yeah. Well, I just like saying like I'll see whatever and I won't be like God, I'm not going to that fucking stupid fucking movie.
I finally got Kenny to get on Letterboxd. Which
Yeah.
you should put your thing on that. Mine is Trade Me Faces, but
Mine's Night Train.
Night Train.
Mhm.
Is that with a K? Are you like a night train or are you like a dark
With
train?
a K.
Knight in shining armor, or are you a dark
Oh
train that goes through the
no,
night?
just a night train. It was my nickname that I got in Phoenix, which is weirdly my dad's also nickname in college, which I didn't ever push. So yeah, Night Train Lane. There's a football player named like that was his last name was Lane. So it's Night Train Lane. So that was my nickname. Anyway, yeah, I'm on
Anyway,
Letterboxd now. Yeah, so go
yeah,
check my reviews out.
and the movies you do in review are just really funny.
Yeah, I try to do it like every time I see one. Yeah,
Yeah, just a few lines. You don't have to do a lot. Great.
yeah.
But some ones, like if it's McCabe Miss Miller, I'm not going to write a review. Like everybody knows this fucking, like there's nothing I
Well,
can add to this conversation.
yeah, it's like reviewing Taxi Driver or something. Like it's been or Easy Rider. It's been
Right.
written about so much. Like what else am I going to add to that?
Yeah. So is there any other movie you want to talk about right now?
Well, I did
You
see the
watch?
Fablemans. Did you see the Fablemans?
Just because I've heard so many mixed things, I've kind of don't want to, but I know
Yeah.
eventually I will. But what did you think?
Well, it's kind of one of those movies that I feel bad for not liking because it's not like a big Marvel movie or like something
Kenny,
a
you
big
should.
thing. Yeah.
Kenny, hold on, sorry. Then you go on.
Yeah.
You should feel bad about the movies you like more than the movies you don't like.
I never apologize for something I like. I don't give a fuck. I'm not gonna fucking be like, I'm so sorry. I thought that was good. Fuck off. Yeah. I'll
Yeah,
but if
you're like a pedophile in an interrogation room.
pedophile interrogation room, what the
I'm
fuck's
not
that
going to
mean?
apologize for what I like, officer.
Oh, do pedophiles say that in the interrogation
Oh
room?
yeah, they're always like,
Usually when I'm watching like Dateline, they're like, I don't know, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, no.
the real
Yeah,
competent
so like,
pedophile.
I like doing what I'm doing, and I'm gonna do it again. Fuck off. Yeah, good analogy, idiot.
Anyway, you were talking about 80 for Brady or whatever.
Yes, 80 for no, the Fablemans. We're over 80 for Brady. There's nothing to say about 80 for Brady. Fablemans,
Wait,
Spielberg moving. Or are you gonna freak out if I talk about it? 'Cause you're like, I haven't seen it yet.
nah,
Don't spoil
I don't
anything.
give a shit about Fablemans. No, go ahead.
Really, you don't give a shit about Fablemans? You'd think this is
Well, because
Spielberg,
it's
and it's like, oh,
Spielberg, but
it's up for all the Oscars and shit too.
it's just because it's Spielberg. From what I've heard, that movie wouldn't have been up for shit if it were anybody else but Spielberg.
Well, yeah, it's like a personal movie. It's his kind of his childhood. A lot of stuff I've heard about. Spielberg talks about a lot of interviews and stuff. So I think people unfamiliar with Spielberg, which actually there might be a lot of people like under 25 now who don't really know who Spielberg is, that they're wondering why this movie exists. What's the point of this? I mean, it's well made, well acted, really well acted, and well done. It's just I wasn't very invested or enthralled in the story, I guess.
Yeah, I guess coming from a household that's of divorced parents, I don't think like grew up in, and my parents got a divorce, and that made me a genius. It's like go fuck yourself. Like you're a
Yeah,
genius because
well,
you're a genius. Like it's not because your parents got a divorce.
right, yeah. So I don't know. It wasn't anything wrong with it per se. I just didn't. I wasn't into it that much.
You want to move into the movie of the week, month,
Sure,
or
why
however long
not?
it takes us?
I wrote Texas again. Okay. Today we're covering the 1996 Warner Brothers release, The Glimmer Man, starring Steven Seagal and Keenan Ivory Wayans, directed by John Gray.
I'll do the plot if there really is one. A detective has to team up with an LA detective, and they have to stop a serial killer who may have mob ties and connections to this other detective's past.
Yeah.
Glimmer Man.
Glimmer Man coming at you, man.
Yeah, it's coming
So,
at you.
so Lucas, what kind of your general thoughts on the Glimmer Man?
I will say this is one of my least favorites we've watched. This movie just
Ooh,
sucks. There's nothing about it, just uninspired garbage,
yeah.
and
Oh.
not complete garbage. It has some saving graces we'll get into, but you could not
Mm-hmm.
suggest this to anybody for any reason. Even someone who's like a huge Seagal fan, it would be
Yeah.
hard to suggest it. Yeah, the movie was really bad, and there's nothing inspiring about it.
Mm.
I only have one positive, which or a couple, but yeah, no, I did not like it at all. What about you? What did you think
Mm.
of Glimmer Man?
Glimmer Man. Well, I think this might be our first like
Glimmer Man.
Glimmer Man. Hey, Glimmer Man. I think it's might be
I
our
love the
first
shake of the shoulders when you say it. Glimmer Man.
Glimmer Man. Watching the old episodes, I tend to do that a lot. Like when I say a point, I'm like, yeah. I gotta stop doing that. Anyway, yeah,
No, do
hey
it
man,
more. What are you talking about? Lean into that.
my signature. Okay. Well, I would say that like I did enjoy this movie, and I also agree with everything that you basically said. I mean, I will say that being a Steven Seagal fan, aka apologist, that
Need
this
it
is
in here.
better. All right, yeah, get comfortable, get ready for
Oh,
this monologue.
yeah.
Get ready for this
Yeah.
monologue. It's coming at you.
Here we go.
I think that this is miles ahead of anything he's made in the last 20 years.
This is
That
older
being
than
said,
20 years ago.
I know it's what I say. Like anything he's made in the last 20 years, this is way better.
Yeah, but this was like
That being said,
30
that's
years
fake
ago.
praise.
Yeah.
yeah. But you get the comparison anyway. So it's a big Warner Brothers movie. I really enjoyed especially the last like half hour, 20 minutes. But this has got major flaws, and they're pretty ridiculous. And it's I don't know. Go. What are some of your other thoughts here?
If I go through my notes, I will say I'll jump to one of them when you say like the last 30 minutes get better. The last 30 minutes get better because they start featuring. Because for a lot of this, I was like, this is just a Steven Seagal movie. It's not even a buddy cop movie.
Mhm.
It's focused on Steven Seagal. And then once they get the fight scene in the fire or whatever, and they bring the Wayne's brother in, and then he's
Mhm.
more involved in the movie gets more interesting. That's
Mhm.
the problem with this movie. They didn't focus enough on Wayans himself, and it was just this generic. No, the movie. First of all, there is no plot. It was characters running around and running into plot elements. Like it's not like they were detecting or doing anything. Literally,
Mhm.
they're on their way to a thing, and there's a shootout at the school, and they go there, and oh, that's directly related into something, even though it's a completely random thing. Then they're
Mhm.
driving later, and like, there's a crime, let's go stop it. And he's like, why? It's not that's nothing to do with this. We have to stop the crime. Then of course, it's directly related to the plot, but
Mhm.
they're not discovering anything. It's all just bumping around into plot elements. It's just horrible writing. Sorry.
Well, well no, that's all that's all valid. It's just like I think what I have a theory, and one of my great theories about the plot of this movie and stuff. I think that there was the script was entitled "The Family Man." It was about a serial killer, and it was come out like in the same era of like Silence of the Lambs and Seven and stuff. And by the time it got made, it was just fucking reworked and rewritten into this fucking Steven Seagal vehicle. And things were dropped. Like the serial killer thing is like basically over halfway through the movie.
Right. And
And
I know
your audio's cutting out.
it's probably because I'm getting too loud. How's
Mm,
that better?
that's better, yeah.
Because I did a little
Your audio's cutting out again.
I don't know what to do. I'm just one man.
Okay,
Is that better?
that's better, yeah.
They had issues with this and cut a bunch out, rework stuff, and Steven Seagal's a fucking asshole and everything. But I can only judge this movie on the merits of what went out theatrically and what I watched. Your theories are probably
Yeah.
right, but we can still there are tons of movies that get reworked.
Oh, I'm not saying that's a good thing that they like that's what they did. I'm saying that's why I'm just explaining my theory is why this fucking plot is such a goddamn mess.
Yeah, I don't even think that's a theory. I think that's exactly what happened. Like I said, even
Well, in all my research they didn't say that, but I'm saying like that's what I'm thinking. Like it's the family man's a killer, but the movie's called the Glimmer Man. The Glimmer Man also for the title, it's like, well, he's ex-military, which is such a fucking all these action movies, all the guys, the big reveal is that he's ex-military. Like that's such a cliche anyway. But like the Glimmer man, you see a glimmer before he kills you. Like who can fucking verify that? such a dumb thing. Lots of dumb shit in this movie, by the way. Yeah, it's so the plot's terrible, but like also as far as the buddies go, this might be the most unceremonious buddy team up scene in the beginning that we've seen.
I love when movies jump right into it, but this movie jumped way too right into it. He walks into his office and he's there. That's the opening scene.
Well, I don't think it's a jump. I think it's just like, hey, I'm your partner. Okay, let's go. All right, you know, like it's not even a fucking open with a bang. It opens with a like, you know.
And
yeah, your audio's cutting out again.
Well, I don't know what to do, Kenny.
I don't do either.
This is all I can do.
Okay, maybe it's just on my side. Maybe it sounds fine on the.
No, it's probably not. I think you're right. Do we stop recording?
Oh, let's just push through.
We'll just push through it. You just keep yelling at me, all right?
Right. When it goes out, I'll just start talking.
I mean that sincerely. Like, keep telling me. Also, like he starts off, he's like, I'm at peace with everything. I want to solve every case and everything. And then 2 seconds later, he's like, I hate this job. Like, what is this character?
Yeah. There's no consistency on the character at all. I think also that this was probably like we talked about like Showtime, Eddie Murphy and Robert De Niro, how this was like a turning point in their career when they started doing just fucking lazy shit. Steven Seagal, he was still a big star. Glimmer Man came out, but in this one, he's looking a little pudgier, a little slower. There's a lot more. The fight scenes are not as dynamic. They're kind of, they're okay, but they're not as good as the stuff in like Out for Justice and Hard to Kill and stuff. He just doesn't seem to have the same energy. I can just see this is the first big inclination of the lazy as fuck Steven Seagal that would go to be in the geezer teaser shit. This like where he won't even walk up the stairs without a body double, and does not like I just want to go in the screen and talk about philosophy and then leave. This is like the first one where you can really kind of see the seeds of that happening.
I can see that because there's that big action scene. He's like, I don't fight. Then he just fights everybody.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck is the point of that? The action sucks. There aren't any action sequences. It's just fighting. There's one quick car chase, and then you're right. Everything in the climax in the buildings, fine.
It's fun. It's fun. Yeah.
Fine, I said, but yeah, my audio is cutting out. But there's no action. It's all just shitty ass martial arts fights.
Yeah, they're not as good as the dynamic as the ones in his previous movies, when his first 4 or whatever, the 3-word movies when he started out. I did though, the one scene I really liked was when the cops come to pick him up, and then he gets in the car with them, and then he realizes they're Russians, and then he starts pistol whipping them hardcore, and then he jumps out of the car and they slam into a fucking gasoline truck and explodes. That's pure B action movie gold right there. I thought that was great.
And this movie was made in '96. It is way too late for the amount of cliches it had. These are cliches on cliches already.
But some of them were. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, no, you can go. You have something to say?
Well, yeah. Some of I got a lot to say. I got a whole fucking sheet of notes here. I got to fucking go over. Well, I thought the supporting cast has actually some pretty A-list character actors, supporting actors. You got Stephen Tobolowsky as the serial killer, who we can talk about a little later.
Everything.
Yeah, he's great. And then Brian Cox is in this, and that interrogation scene on Brian Cox 2/3 of the way through it, where him and Keanu Reeves, they take him out. He's shooting him in the kneecap. He shoots him in the hand, and then Brian Cox says God, I missed you, Jack. And then they get him to confess, and then Keanu Reeves pulls the tape recorder out. It's gotcha, asshole. It's were you also recording when you were kneecapping him and shooting him in the hand and this insane police brutality?
I think you just called Marlon Wayans Keanu Reeves in that. That's all I could think of, which is great.
Keenan Ivory Wayans, you mean?
Keenan Ivory Wayans? Maybe that's what you said. And Marlon Wayans is the younger one, the bulletproof
It's his younger brother.
That's what I just call him.
That's Damon Wayans.
That's Damon Wayans.
Yeah, don't get confused.
The Wayans brothers.
It sounds bad coming from 2 white guys to confuse the Wayans brother.
There's fucking 8 of them, and now they're all having kids, and they're all getting famous.
And all the kids are in acting. Yeah.
It's not about if there was just one black guy. So you're right.
Yeah.
I hate the raining. It's raining in LA. At first, I'm like, why is it raining
Yeah.
in LA? And then it's like, oh, we're the rainiest LA of all time. Like, why
Uh,
even put that in? So I'm guessing it was raining early in production, and they just kind of retcon
kind
that
of
later in the movie.
maybe, but like as far as like buddy action comedies, which is our genre here we're covering, yes, Keanu Reeves, or sorry, Keanu Reeves now. So
Ah, I think you did do it.
that's not racist. I call him Keanu Reeves.
No, what I did was racist.
Yeah, what you did was
Yeah,
racist.
yeah.
Keenan Ivory Wayans does have some good like one-liners, some kind of funny acting things, but this movie, a lot of it is like shot and feels almost like a horror movie. Did you get that vibe too? It
No, I
doesn't have
think
a light action comedy vibe to it.
they were trying to go serial killer routes,
Yeah,
and they were trying to make a buddy action comedy, and also a gritty
yeah,
serial killer with the rain in LA. And
yeah,
of course, for some reason, it didn't work out.
yeah.
Right, Cox's. We talking about Brian Cox's fucking crazy
Mhm.
Georgian accent that comes
Yeah,
and
I
goes.
love it. Love it. Yeah.
So stupid. I guess Tommy Lee Jones was cast as that character and
Yeah.
dropped out
I
like
heard
the
about that.
last
Yeah.
moment. So maybe
Yeah.
that's why he decided to do a
Just to go
Tommy
in
Lee
there.
Jones
Like
accent.
you can tell he's just enjoying this paycheck fucking part. Like, he doesn't give a shit.
Are the
Um,
bad guys supposed to be gay? I thought there was this weird kind of
I
they're
don't
all
know.
really intimate and all. He's like swimming in the pool. The head of
Uh-huh.
security, he's like
Yeah.
self a glass of wine and talks to his boss, and they're kind of
Well, that was
snappy at
kind of
each
a
other.
that was kind of a 90s thing with like making like the like Braveheart or JFK, like making the bad guys even creepier because they might be gay. Like that was kind of like a an ugly kind of touch that a lot of these movies did in the 90s. So maybe I didn't really pick up on that. I thought they were all just close bad guys and good
I
guys.
guess I have a really good gaydar. I don't know.
I don't know.
I never thought they were gay. I thought they
I,
were just
I,
close bad
I think
guys.
I think you're projecting. I think like is it me or is Seagal and Keanu or Keenan? Everyone's gay in this movie.
You
So
say this
this,
every movie, Lucas.
yeah. So a funny line. I loved it when Steven Seagal stared the bad guy in the face and said, "Now get your ugly white ass out of here."
Yeah.
That was
Like,
cool.
does he think he's Asian? Is that the point
I
of
think
that?
so. Yeah, I don't know. Well, lots of crazy Steven Seagal stories. I collect them like jewels. Did you hear some of the ones that Keanu Ivory Wayans has said on this making this movie?
The one I read was he came out of his trailer and Steven Seagal screaming like overrelated. I just read the best script I've ever read in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And Keenan Ivory Wayans goes, "What script or who wrote it?" He's like, "I did."
Yeah. Like a
Yeah,
tear
so.
coming down his eye. Yeah, that's an amazing one. Another one that I heard was Keanu Ivory Wayans, like was that there, and Steven Seagal came up to him and he said, something wonderful has happened. The Dalai Lama has ordained me an official deity in Buddhism. I guess if you like donate enough money to one of the Dalai Lama's charities, he'll give you some like official thing. But he's like, yes, I am now an ordained, like high priest or something in the area of Buddhism. And right then, his assistant came up and said, like, Mr. Seagal, your ex-wife called. She's not bringing the kids over this weekend. He was like, you tell that cunt I'm gonna rip her throat out.
My favorite line, well, the only line that actually made me laugh a little or chuckle,
Mm-hmm.
I'll say, is when he comes to Keenan Ivory Wayne's burnt out apartment after their
Mm-hmm.
fight, and he goes, "They got to
Yeah.
you too, huh?" He goes, "No, I bought all this shit at the riots or after the riots." That was a pretty good line.
I like Keaton Ivory Wayans. He's
He was
fun.
great in this. He's the best part of this
Yeah.
movie by far.
Yeah. And how much screen time do they have together? Honestly, it doesn't seem like much.
Well, I guess they cut a shit ton of it out. Like they had a lot more comedic moments. They cut it out, retooled it to make it more of a Steven Seagal movie and his bullshit
Yeah.
hand fast action that doesn't even look like
Right.
anything's going on.
Right.
Yeah, he's underused and he's a big part of this. There's also a major issue, like when they find out his ex-wife was murdered,
Mm-hmm.
Steven Seagal's.
He's,
It doesn't land because we don't know who the fuck she is because she's not
well,
introduced or anything.
the character work in this movie is really bad. We don't know who Keaton Ivory Wayans is. We don't know who Steven Seagal is. We like they just kind of like you said, they kind of jump into it. It doesn't work because we don't like know these characters at all. It's just it's not a very well structured, put together movie. As much as I kind of enjoyed it, and it was panned hard when it came out. Like critics, I think, felt bad for overpraising Under Siege because it was on like Siskel and Ebert's like top 10 best movies of the year, and then On Deadly Ground came out, which was like Seagal's like directing debut, and it's just such a fucking crazy ass, awful but amazing movie. And so I think critics between that and this, I think they kind of felt bad about overpraising Under Siege. So they were really, but I would say it's probably a stretch, even as much as I enjoyed like this one, to call it underrated. I don't think it's underrated. I think it's probably rated about as well as it should be.
It has the most gratuitous running from a fireball scene I've ever seen in my life.
Mm-hmm.
He's right next
Get
to
out
the
of it.
stove. He goes,
Run it, yeah. Oh shit!
and it's right on his heels.
Yeah, the running away from a fireball always fucking cracks me up. There's a few really weird moments like that. Also, when the bad guy, they're like chasing the bad guy in the apartment, and the bad guy runs to like the doors and they're locked, grabs them. He's like, hey, where do you think you're going or something? And it cuts to like Steven Seagal just sitting behind the desk at the check-in with his feet up, like reading a newspaper.
Well, you miss it when the guy runs. The guy runs by, and it's the guy reading the newspaper, and he was established earlier, so you just missed it.
Okay.
So I was like, I was like, oh, that's Steven Seagal.
Oh, you clocked that?
He turns and he lowers the paper.
I thought that was so silly, like it was a chase. I don't know. I thought that was so funny.
Kenny, I'll tell you something. I watched this movie like a fucking hawk.
Yeah, just dictating every fucking thing that came on. I was like, that's fucking horse shit. Look at this.
It took me 5 hours to get through it. I was pausing it so much.
Yeah. There's a weird scene early too when like they have that corpse, the woman with the fake boobs, and like Steven Seagal just like grabs a knife and just makes like a little incision and just takes out the fake boob and holds it up. That's completely like wiped off clean and stuff. That was really weird. And that took me out of it. How about you?
There's so much. Well, that's really disturbing. First, you're looking at the corpse of a woman. Like, right. You notice something different about this woman? He's like,
she got big tits.
She got great tits. Like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
he's like, good point. And he takes out a knife and cuts the fucking tit out. He's like, see, and there's an address on it. Call this guy. Like, what the fuck is going on?
I thought that was a terrible plot point. Yeah.
But also, they also do other stupid cop things like, oh, we have a school shooting. Well, I'll go and be a hostage negotiator, even though I'm a homicide detective. And even though we don't deal with suicides or school shooting or whatever, and I'm certainly not a negotiator, we'll just jump out and then we'll get a bunch of B-roll of cops running towards the schools. It's just the whole thing is just so stupid.
Yeah, well, the director, I think he did like a lot of like TV stuff, and he made one other movie, I think the year before. It's called Born to Be Wild. It's a kids movie where this like teenager goes on a road trip with a gorilla, which I never saw, but I'm sure is well worth your time. Not much of a career for me, but I've heard a lot of like the behind the scenes stories and stuff. Like we talked about Stephen Tobolowsky as the killer. Apparently, the whole scene with him in the church and stuff. I guess on the day of shooting, and I've heard stories about Steven Seagal doing this. Steven Seagal was like, I am done with killing people in movies. I don't want to kill people anymore. I'm not going to shoot this serial killer in this scene. And the director was like, and the Warner Brothers were like, no, you have to. He's like, no, I'm not. So Stephen Tobolowsky said, like, basically he had to convince Steven Seagal in the scene to be like, no, I'm a serial killer and you're actually doing me like a favor, killing me. So, you're not killing like a person, you're killing like an evil spirit out of me or some fucking bullshit, So Seagal did it in the scene, and then like a month or two later, when they wrapped filming, like the director called him back in and said, well, Steven Seagal's been ad-libbing and through the rest of the movie saying like, I'm glad I didn't kill that guy in the church. So he had to come in and loop some lines, like after he shoots him, like, like Austin Powers, like, I'm still here. You can't, I'm not dead, but I've been shot. But apparently they decided to, get rid of that but I guess the whole movie just sounds like Steven Seagal was being like a huge pain in the ass. He was a producer credited on it too and stuff. So, yeah.
Do you have anything else to say about this particular movie?
The Glimmer Man, not really. I mean, like I said, like if you're a Steven Seagal fan, it's way better than any of that fucking awful direct-to-video shit he's been doing for the past 20 years. But is it worth like seeking out? Not unless you're like a Steven Seagal, maniac or something.
Before we get into our ratings, do you have any other Steven Seagal stories off the top of your head from other things you'd like to share?
I have one that I heard personally that from this guy, this actor named Jesse Hutch, who was in my little horror movie I made, the short we made for the Portland Horror Film Festival a couple years ago.
He was the
He
actor in that.
he was the main actor, yeah, and he's been like the lead in like Hallmark movies and stuff like that, and he's done some of those like Seagal like things. Well, he was playing a sniper in a Steven Seagal movie apparently, like a few years back, and Seagal in the scene was a spotter, and he's like telling him where to shoot in their scene, and right before like they were ready to shoot, Seagal goes, "Give me the rifle. I'm a better shot than you." And he was like, well, one, how do you know you're a better shot than me? Two, we're not really shooting anybody. This is pretend. And three, you just flipped all our dialogue. So, like, what the fuck, And anyway, that was a good one.
That's a good story. He seems like a great guy.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure. I've heard nothing but good stories about Steven Seagal.
This isn't Steven Seagal, but Steven Seagal related. I went on a hike with friends of friends of friends. It's like a whole weekend hike and stuff. And one of the guys seemed really cool at first, and we kind of hit it off. And then slowly, the more I got to know him, the more I realized like he was talking about all these crazy ghost haunting and all these other. And I realized this guy's a fucking liar. But he's like, he's like a ex-military guy, and he works security for Steven Seagal. And he just talked about how badass Steven Seagal was the whole time.
Really? Well, I don't know. Maybe he's. I've never met Steven Seagal. Maybe he is.
Yeah, you also haven't met this guy. For all I know, he didn't work for Steven Seagal.
Because be a big fucking liar.
I believe he worked for Steven Seagal. I just believe he would think that working for Steven Seagal makes him cool. Steven Seagal.
Well, I don't know if Steven Seagal actually has so much cred anymore at all. I mean, a lot of like the people like now that UFC and stuff is taking off, like even like Aikido. I'm not a martial arts expert, but from what I've fucking heard, it's like Aikido is kind of a controversial martial art anyway, as far as like how effective it is versus like there's not any Aikido UFC guys. There's like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Muay Thai, boxing, wrestling is a big one.
No,
but,
and you watched
you cut out again. You're cutting out. Anyway, can I just show you something here real quick? Can I show you something here real quick? Okay, it's one of my prized possessions. This is Steven Seagal's Lightning Bolt Cherry Charge energy drink from, I think, 2005. So it's about 17 years old right now. And even by that time, 2005, Steven Seagal was kind of like, he wasn't like energetic. He was very just like kind of like, just mumbling his lines and kind of like, but I love that I still have this, holding on to this one.
Drink it.
No, I think it's probably poison by now.
It was probably poison back then.
It's probably poison then. It's definitely poison now, but I just like having it as a novelty.
What rating would you give this movie? As a buddy action comedy.
Action comedy, I would probably give, if I was being really kind, like 3 stars, but if I more accurate, like 2.5, even though I did enjoy it. And I'm a Steven Seagal fan. I'm a Keen Ivory Wayans fan. It didn't really feel very much of like a comedy. It's almost like, like we were talking about, like a serial killer thriller meets a Steven Seagal movie, and Keen Ivory Wayans is almost like an afterthought,
Yeah, I think that's what hurts it the most.
Yeah.
I give it 1. Comedy, I give it 2.
1.5. You said 1.5 stars?
As an actual movie, yeah.
Yeah.
And as a buddy action comedy, I would give it 2 stars because the action sucked, the buddy element sucked, the comedy element sucked. Keen Ivory Wayans was the only thing saving this movie. The rest sucked.
Yeah. Well, I like that. It's a poop movie. That's on your poop shoot scale. I'm giving it 3 poops.
I'm giving it a fast pass ticket to go down my poop scale.
Oh, excellent.
Thanks. I'm at poop shoot. It doesn't matter what I'm at.
Right.
This movie sucked, and it's made it hard to keep doing this with you.
I think your audio cutting out is making it really hard to do this with you.
Well, how could I know? I do the same thing I always do.
Well, I'm sorry that you're. What do we want to do next week? Are we even doing one next week, or is it gonna be like now?
I'm trying to figure out my audio situation. How's that better?
That's better, yeah.
Yeah, it won't last. I already know what I want to do next week, if we do it next week, but I know what the next one's going to be.
What's going to be?
Twin Dragons.
Oh, the with Jackie Chan playing the
Yeah.
twins.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
One
what was the,
person, one actor, both characters, buddy
yeah.
action comedy. What do you think about that?
I think it's Jackie Chan's Double Impact. Sure. Let's see it.
Yeah, it's Jackie Chan. Which came out first, do you think? Well, let's
Well, it's
save it
hard
for the
to.
next. Let's save it for next time.
Okay, let's save it for next time. Okay. Any last thoughts on the show, us, why we love doing this, why we love our fans, any of that stuff.
No thoughts. Why do we love doing this? Love's
Uh-huh.
a big word. What do you got in the Super Bowl?
I'll take the Chiefs because my nephew's rooting for the Chiefs. Plus, I bet everyone at work $5, so now I'm like $25 deep, in the Chiefs betting. But I think the Eagles are going to win. Yeah.
Yeah, everybody's taking the Eagles, so it gives me pause. What are you doing for the Super Bowl?
I'm going to my mom's house to the Super Bowl, and with Megan and her daughter is going to drive down, and we're going to make a lot of snacks and stuff. And that's going to be my big beach house Super Bowl party. How about you?
Well, hold on real quick. What kind of TV does your mom fuck with?
Mom, what kind of TV you fucking with now? I don't know, like a 40-something inch, maybe like flat screen HD thing. I don't know. How about you?
We're going to West Hollywood to a big Hollywood party, a bunch of actors. I'm not going to bore you with it,
Oh wow, another
Yeah.
Hollywood story from Lucas. Yeah, do you got to name
Not
drop anybody?
no, I'll hand out
There
my
could
buddies.
be RD Jr. Let's see, let's Bobby De Niro, whatever.
Yeah, I doubt De Niro's going to show up. We got in a pretty big fight last time.
Yeah. You told him Stanley and Iris sucks.
I made him watch the whole time. I've got him in a corner, made him watch our Hollywood homicide video.
So yeah.
And he's
Why?
like, that's
It's
not
like,
even me. That's Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
But this is our good episode.
Yeah, you're like, would you just shut up and let them watch for a minute? Like, Jesus, it's about to say something funny before you fucking stepped on it.
I have to rewind it.
Idiot. Yeah.
No, yeah, I mean, it's a surprisingly short episode. I thought we'd have more to say about Stevie Seagal, but anything you want to learn about him, you can read online. Your story was
There's
great.
a lot of great stories about Steven Seagal. So many like fucking amazing things. There was Al Franken was recently on like one of the podcasts. He talked about what like Lauren Michaels like said like Steven Seagal was the worst host that SNL ever had.
They all say that if they were that.
They all say that. But that episode's fucking amazing with some of the sketches on there because Steven Seagal is like pushing him. They don't make any sense. He just comes in like he just kicks everybody's ass and leaves, and that's like the comedy sketch, But he did say like he was a guest star on the Tonight Show in like '90s with Jay Leno, and like the first guest was Steven Seagal, and like right when he was saying that, right by the first commercial break, he just leans over to Al Franken. He's like, "Why did Lauren say that about me?" And Al Franken just started like fucking dancing as fast as he can. Well, I don't. Well, we just And Jay Leno just like covered for him. He was like, "Well, because you're such a big star. You're so huge. That's you make fun of like the biggest star in the world. You're so tough. You're the toughest guy in the world. Of course you're gonna say you're a jerk. You're a bad guy." And so he was like, "Oh, okay, yeah."
Who is your favorite Wayans brother?
Oh, let's see. Marlon, I think. Yeah. Well, Keenan's great. I mean, he's a director too, and he seems like a good guy. I've heard good things about Damon, so I don't know. How about you?
I'm a fan of Billy Baldwin.